Hello, friends. So this is the fifth video lecture of the first chapter of Child Growth and Development, and I think I may have teased you a little bit. Where we left off, we were talking about a couple of the behavioralists. So far, we've talked about three different behavioralist theorists. You have Watson. He was no, I'm sorry. I think we got more. You got Pavlov. He was the dog and the slobber, and then Watson is the little Albert, bangs the loud thing, teaches the child to fear something that they're not already afraid of. And you remember, the behavioralists are behavioralists because what they're really interested in or what they're focusing on is the things you can see, which is behavior. And then I talked briefly about Skinner, and Skinner is the operant conditioning guy. Yes, that you add something or take something away, but again, what we're really looking at is behaviors. That's what we're using to speculate about development and understanding. And I suggested that was the last behavioralist, but I was wrong. I had forgotten about Albert Bandura, I believe is his name. So he is a behavioralist, but he also is credited with a specific behavioralist theory, and that's what we call social learning theory. So the most famous of his experiments, which you may have already heard about, is called the Bobo experiment. And so let me back up just a little bit. The social learning theory says is that the way we learn about the world, or the way children learn about the world, is by observing other people. So hence you've got the term social. So I am learning about the world by watching other people. And I'm watching other people for seeing, and then I'm mimicking their behavior. So what the Bobo experiment, and these are actual like screen clips from it, is, and Bandura is also famous for, he was one of the first researchers to systematically study the role of television and the role of media on children. And so in this particular experiment, you see the top images here, and the children watch a video of a woman playing with one of these beanbag clowns, and how she plays aggressively with the beanbag clown. And then they're given an opportunity to go play in a room where there's a beanbag clown, and what do is they mimic, they are also aggressive towards it. And the theory goes, because the children have seen somebody else act this way towards this Bobo the clown. What's really interesting, though, is not only are the children aggressive with the toy the same way that they saw the woman in the video, but they're additionally aggressive. And so I forget the technical term for this, but the conclusion that the researchers make is that children will mimic what they see. And today we kind of want to go, duh, of course, children mimic what they see. But again, what the social sciences, or the reason the reason we call this field of understanding a science, is because we're systematically measuring. We hypothesize, we speculate, we hypothesize, we collect data, and we draw conclusions based on that data, instead of, well, of course we know this, we actually measure it. So anyway, that's what Albert Bandura is famous for, is his social learning theory, that children learn and will repeat what they see other people do. Your textbook also adds a new term that I've not seen in other ones, and that is called vicarious reinforcement. So what vicarious reinforcement means is that, yes, children are watching other people act in certain ways, but the other people that they are watching may have experienced classical conditioning. You'll remember classical conditioning from Watson and Pavlov. So other people have learned that if I do this, it feels good, and then children watch other people do the thing that feels good, and so they're learning about reinforcement vicariously by watching somebody else. So anyway, it was a new term that I had not seen before. But your textbook doesn't have the term for it, but I think one of the interesting contributions of this theory is actually down here in this final point. And that's the idea that, okay, so we call it social learning. So that means our social group is influencing how we learn, but there's also this notion of reciprocity and reciprocal learning. I talk a little bit about this in my marriage and family class, but what this reciprocal relationship is we know, for instance, I mean, of course, parents influence their children, but what reciprocal conditioning implies is that not only are the parents influencing the children, but the children are also influencing the parent. So I was talking with a friend of mine not very long ago. We were talking about, parenting and kids. And so parents will try something to influence their children, and their children may respond to that in a positive way. So maybe that'll modify their children's behavior, so they'll do it again. Or it may cause their children to become angry or backlash or whatever. But the point is that it's not just parents acting on the children, but the way the children respond will also influence the parent. And I don't know if one of the things I was telling my 23-year-old daughter not very long ago is there's really not many things worse, I think, than the pain that a child can inflict on their parent. I mean, your kids could really hurt your feelings, and this may cause you to react towards them. I just think this is a point worth making, worth highlighting here, is that reciprocal social learning. Parents affect their kids, but their kids are also affecting their parents and affecting the way they feel about themselves. And anyway, it's this reciprocity. I hope I made a point without, rambling on too long. Okay, I'm going to talk just very briefly for the last 5 minutes or so about a different kind of developmental theory. So that was the last behavioralist. You've got Bandura, Skinner, Pavlov, and Watson. Now I want to shift gears, and I want to get to a theorist, cognitive development. This cognitive development is, I guess you would say, not my jam necessarily, because for me, and I shouldn't bias you, it's difficult for me to kind of get my mind around. Behavioralism is more straightforward, but what cognitive developmental theory is about this term. And this is a quiz question and a midterm question and maybe even a final exam question. What do we mean by cognitive, right? We're in a psychology class. This is a very important concept in psychology. Cognitive means thinking. So your cognition, if somebody has a cognition, they have a thought. So anytime we use the term cognitive development, cognitive theory, what we're talking about is how we think. Pinochet's theory, and again, he's a contemporary, right? Pinochet's theory of cognitive development, and this may sound sort of like a duh, we already knew that, is that children think differently than adults. Children's ability to think, children's understanding of the world is different than adults. Learning how to think is a developmental process. We are not born understanding abstract ideas. So what's really critical about a cognitive understanding, especially if you're working with children or you're a parent, is you can't expect your children to understand the same things that you would expect an adult. And often you'll hear an adult talk to a smaller child like, well, what do you think I mean? Or why did you do that? And a child's ability to think abstractly about ideals, about into the future. Sometimes at your very young ages, a child doesn't even have the concept of you are a different person than me. So we should never assume or believe that children have the capacity to understand the world the way we do as grown-ups and parents, because that is what we mean by cognitive development. A child has to go through these different stages of understanding the world. Okay, so that's cognitive development. Children don't understand. So let me talk quickly about the different stages. You have the sensory motor stage of cognitive. So this is parallel to Freud, because Freud talked about the different stages. But in Pinochet's model, we're talking about the different stages as a child's ability to understand. So the sensory motor stage of understanding is children only understand their senses, only what they can taste, what they can touch, what they can hear. All of their understanding of the world is based on their senses, right? Their sensory motor. There's no abstract, there's no other. Then you move to, what does it say? Up to about 2. Then you move to the next stage, and you've got 2 to 7. And this is what we call pre-operational. So I don't know why we call it that, but pre-operational is an understanding of the symbolic nature of things. So now you could show, but here's the thing, you could show a child a stuffed toy, and they understand that that stuffed toy is a dog, right? That's the symbol of a dog. It's pre-operational because in some of it, I'll put up a video later on, they don't necessarily understand that. I think the video shows an example of a child trying to they can get into the plastic toy car, that stands about yay high, but then you give them a smaller model car and they try to get into that too because they know it's a toy car, but they don't understand that it's a symbol of a toy car. Okay, I am going to stop here so that I don't have to rush, and in the next video I'm going to pick up talking about Piaget's theory of cognitive development.